Another day, another chance to go practice. So let's get into it. Hi, Bryan from Airflow Music here once again. Welcome back. This is day 4 of our Go Practice Daily series, which we started here in March 2022. Good to be back with you once again today. We're going to get into this fairly quickly. But before we do, I have a question for you today. We might even call it the question of the day. Maybe that'll be a thing. What I would like to know is how many of you who've been doing these exercises along with me so far this week, how many of you have practiced exercises similar to this before? Focusing on the Caruso style thing or the long setting thing or that kind of thing, or even just taken time to play something slow every day. That's what I'd like to know. So please drop me a comment down below. I want to say this up front so I actually caught you before people lose their focus and drift away. I know a lot of you are watching this all the way through, but the stats also show me that a bunch of people watch the first 2 minutes and go, that guy again. Not a problem. We're here for the hardcore folks who like to practice. Anyway, one further query to clear up. I was asked whether it would work to slow these exercises down even further to work on intonation and slotting. My feeling there is that right now we're doing a Caruso style exercise. Whether or not we're actually doing it long setting is almost kind of secondary. But a Caruso style thing is really about playing in time, as we talked about yesterday. And so we're developing a timed response. And that's really the point of doing this. So my feeling is that doing something like this is not a long exercise that we're doing every day. I know that people have different constraints on their time, but we're only doing about, if we play these two back to back with none of my rattling on in between, then it would take about 13 or 14 minutes. It's not a whole lot of time. My feeling is that you'll be better served devoting some additional time to still playing your long tones. These exercises shouldn't preclude playing your long tones. If not every day, then at least some of the days. Okay? And that is the place I would go to really work on your intonation and your slotting and finding where the notes sit, particularly now if anything's changed as a result of this new formation you may be developing in your chops. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about that. Anyway, let's get into it. We're going to go back to exercise 1 as always. Same things apply. We're still playing this first set and we're going to be going at 60 beats a minute as always because we're trying to be consistent. And we're doing the semitones. Caruso rules apply. So tap your foot, subdivide the beat, breath attack on the first note of each phrase, and on the rest bar try to breathe in time. Out for 2 beats, in for 2 beats. If you're playing it long setting as I am, all that's going to occur through your nose, not a mouth breath. Alright? And if you do need to empty your water key, keep your mouthpiece in place on your chops while you do it, and you should be good to go. Okay? So let's get into exercise 1. Okay, so there's exercise one for today. It was an interesting one for me. Overall, I feel like things are coming along fairly well. The difference I noticed for myself today is, as it happens today, I'm recording this later in the afternoon, early evening, because I had to be at a rehearsal earlier on. And even though my corners feel good, everything seems to be hanging in, I'm feeling the residual effects of having played earlier. So a little scrappy in places, I think, for that reason. And in particular, I got a little off with my breathing. Didn't get as good a breath as I might have done, particularly for the last couple of lines. So, again, these things are observations for me. I'm not concerned about them necessarily, unless, there seems to be some kind of deleterious pattern emerging. But for right now, that's not the case. But this is a good opportunity for me to sit and diagnose myself a little bit. And that becomes easier when you play something consistently every day. So you can notice the differences rather than being, perhaps a little more haphazard in what you practice. So, this is one of the reasons that things like this are very useful for me personally. And I hope that you're finding a similar experience with it. So, how's this set working for you now we're at day 4? Are you starting to find your feet with it a little bit? Are you starting to develop some familiarity? Starting to feel differently about it? If not, better or anything, differently about it. I'm interested to hear. So if you're hanging with me up to this point, then please do comment below and let me know. That would be good to know. I think it's probably time to move on to exercise 2. So we're sticking with the same rules for this as before. It's still the same one we've been doing for the past 3 days. So, 80 beats a minute, first bar slurred, second bar tongued, then the hold on the third bar, and then 2 bars rest in between. And we want to reset, get the horn off of our chops, and reset so we can make the downbeat on what is, I suppose, effectively the 5th bar. Okay? That's what we're going to get into. I claimed this yesterday, but I'm going to try and do it today. I'm going to try and play exercise 2 a little softer. We'll see if I manage to keep up with that. Actually managed to concentrate that long to get it done. Okay? So, let's get into exercise 2. That was dreadful. Let me play that one again. 1, 2. Much better. 1, 2. Okay, so there's exercise 2 for today, and a few things to notice. In particular, my low notes are getting smoother, and the articulations, in particular, are improving. Still not quite where I want them to be, but nonetheless, getting better. So that's a positive thing. I did, of course, mess up in the middle with that higher C sharp. I was following along on the sheet to make sure I got the pattern right, and I read the wrong line and kind of flubbed the beginning of it. So I just repeated that because sometimes that's what you need to do. And so you will see that. There's no editing on those exercises. I play something fully all the way through so you can see where I mess it up, particularly when we do these daily versions. Okay? So that was pretty good. Now, one of the things I noticed a couple of days ago, you may remember on day 2, I think it was, I was saying that I was noticing kind of a slight soreness in my upper back or shoulders from lifting the horn up and down all the time. Someone had mentioned that in the comments, and I actually noticed that that's getting better. So I'm not sure if, I've just slept better and feel better up there in any case, or if I'm getting a little stronger from the repetition. either of those is possible. It's something I'll still vaguely pay attention to, but there we go. These are the things, once again, that we start to notice, the tendencies we start to find as we do things like this. And I've said it before, probably numerous times now, but this is kind of the point of doing things like this, to start to really notice those and get to know how it feels to play things, so you have a sense of when something's not right, and so you can start to work on fixing it. Okay? So those are my observations about today. How about yours? How are you finding these things now? Once again, they've had a few days to bed in, and you're a little more familiar with them. As always, please leave a comment below if you have an observation of your own. We're always interested to see what's going on and how you're feeling about these things. I'm going to probably stick with this set for another 2 days. So we start with a new set on Monday. This will be Saturday's video. So one more day on this set, and then we'll probably flick to a new one. Okay, so we start with a new one on Monday. That might be a good way to do things, just psychologically for my broken, weird brain, apart from anything else. Okay? Anyway, please do hit that like button if you've been enjoying this video and playing these exercises. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're joining us and you've been here a couple of days. That would be very much appreciated. And share this video with your friends who also play. Maybe they get some value from it too. I hope so. Anyway, I will be back with the next one of these tomorrow. And in the meantime, as always, you know what to do. Go practice.